This is Eric Andrews, CWF WroldWide Television Champion. You're listening to the official, unofficial CWF WroldWide After Show.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Doing the Brad Sutton, oh, God thing.
For going on 2 years now, the guys here on the network make fun of me for it, no less.
Trevor Lee.
There you go. The host, ring announcer, sometimes brilliant commentator, the lovely CL Party. CL, how are you doing tonight?
I am great. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
The technical director of CWF Mid-Atlantic, the one and only Grant Sawyer. Thank you for joining us, Grant. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me back, buddy. I'm happy to fill in because, I'm just sitting around listening to you guys anyway.
I could be in that building in absolute justice and cut a fart.
Mm-hmm.
6 years later, they're going to be like, whatever happened to that badass Joe White sitting in the third row cutting farts?
Right.
Everything fucking means something in this place, and I love
It's what
it.
you want, White.
You're supposed to remember shit.
Mm-hmm. They don't insult your intelligence.
Damn right they don't. None other than the one, the only, Sis. Sis, how are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic.
Is Johnny P. John Philip Pavage is going to be joining us. How are things going?
Oh, good. I got a break from editing because you're calling me.
Okay.
So
I have to
I
ask.
still have to do everything. It's just that I get to pace myself better.
I have to ask because you mentioned it.
Yeah.
What are you editing? Again, that music can only mean one thing. We are joined by the current, reigning, defending, rising Generation League champion of CWF Mid-Atlantic, and that is Mr. Kane Justice. What's up, Kane?
What's up, guys? And by the way, it is the record setting. I've defended the belt 8 times.
There you go.
More than anyone else in history. All about Kane now, man.
Bruce Mitchell is joining me right now on the line. How are you, Bruce?
This week I have done shows with Wade Keller, J.J. Dillon, and WWE Hall of Famer, another WWE Hall of Famer, Stan Hansen, Gerald Briscoe, WWE Hall of Famer, Jim Ross. And now the highlight of the entire run, it's built to this, been like a great wrestling program. I've been climbing that ladder, and now I'm here on the blow-off show, the blow-off match. You're it, man. You transcend all those guys.
I was going to go the opposite of that and say, look how the mighty have fallen.
No. I had to build my way to this show, the CWF.
I appreciate
Unofficial,
it, sir.
official.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Oh, come on.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Come on.
You got Cecil on the air going, oh, maybe it won't be one of these guys that's here. Maybe it'll be a new guy to dethrone him. Well, how about this, Cecil? Nobody's going to dethrone him. How about that? That's right, Trev.
I love this show.
This is CL Party welcoming you to the unofficial CWF Worldwide After Party with Joe White.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic Worldwide After Show. We're going to be covering episode 120 tonight. But before we cover episode 120, we have a special guest on with us. We have the one, the only, he's the color commentator. Sometimes he's a wrestler for CWF Mid-Atlantic. And that is Mr. Cecil Scott. Cecil, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me tonight.
I appreciate you coming on. It was a kind of short notice. A few days ago, I messaged you in like, hey, want to come on? And you were gracious enough to say yes here. So thank you very, very much. Great job tonight on the commentary, by the way. Good job every night on commentary. But tonight was just, with all the twists and turns that the storylines took tonight, very good job, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of it. And what's impressive to me, and a lot of people don't know this, it's one of my pet peeves, is that sometimes our equipment, our headphones don't work the way they should. So I couldn't hear anything Brad Stutz was saying on that show, on this taping. And I think we still called a pretty good set of shows. So I was very happy with it.
Let me ask you about that here right off the bat. I mean, you guys can hear each other in the headsets, but you're so close together in that kind of a building. I mean, if I'm sitting where Bruce Mitchell normally sits or where Katie normally sits, I can hear both of you. But for those who don't know, when you got headphones on, and I don't know what kind of headphones you guys use, like when I have the headphones on that I have now to do the show, I can't hear anything going on in the outside world. I can hear my own voice in my head. I can hear you in my ear. But if somebody were to come up and, tell something, and my girlfriend was to come in the door and tell me, hey, the house is on fire, I wouldn't know to look over at her. So how difficult is that? I mean, when to bounce off each other, I'm assuming you can hear them a little bit, but how bad is that when something goes wrong like that?
Well, 9 times out of 10, we can hear each other fine. As I said, truth be told, we need to upgrade the equipment, and everyone knows it. It's just one of those things that keeps getting put off. But I kind of wish our headphones were to the point where you couldn't hear anything going on the outside world, but we can still hear the crowd, and we can hear some of the chatter and things like that. Sometimes you'll hear us kind of crack up because we hear one of the remarks from the crowd or something like that. But for the most part, they're pretty well isolated. It definitely drowns out the noise that you need it to.
I'm going to go ahead and ask the usual questions here, and then we'll get back to your commentary because it's brilliant. But I feel like the need, to start off the interview the old traditional way. How long have you been in the business, and who trained you?
I've actually been in the business since 2003. Didn't do a whole lot between 03 and 06, but I originally trained with the Stro, or the Maestro from WCW.
Right.
He was my original trainer. Did a few matches out on the East Coast of North Carolina and moved to Greensboro and got hooked up with CWF in 2006 and was retrained by Gemini Kid, or Coach Gemini, Kamikaze Kid, and a guy by the name of Jesse Ortega.
So you said you found CWF. How did you first, what was the first little rumblings you heard about the promotion? Did you just happen to come to a show? Because a lot of people that we interviewed here from, people like Sis and everybody, they're like, we just showed up as fans one night or just showed up to hang out backstage, and it resulted in me getting a job. Is that kind of how it happened for you?
Kind of, sort of. I distinctly remember seeing something in the local newspaper, a story about CWF. And I don't even remember the particulars of the article. I just remember seeing it and saw, got the address and everything. And I was looking for a way to get back into the business after being out for a little while. So me and a couple of my friends went out to one of the shows and, just as fans and watched. And I talked to, who did I talk to? I remember speaking to either Coach Gemini or William Cross after the show, and just kind of figuring out how I can get out to the dojo and how I can work out and all of that, and just kind of went from there.
I want to remind everybody who is just tuning in, you're listening to the official, unofficial CWF Worldwide After Show right here on the Pillow to Post YouTube channel. My name is Joe White. Joining us tonight is Cecil Scott, who is the sometimes he's a wrestler, but more often not, you can catch him behind the commentary table doing color commentary for CWF Worldwide. We invite you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That way you're always alerted when we go live here on the channel. When, you started wrestling for them. When you started wrestling, did the commentary thing always stick in the back of your mind? Have you always wanted to be behind that announce table with those headphones on?
Be honest, no. I mean, when I first started, our distribution was somewhat lacking, to say the least. We used to kind of rib Grant all the time about putting stuff out on video, and it's because we were so behind on it. But they would do a lot of post-production with Grant and Randolph Hendricks, the ring announcer. Mm-hmm. They would go in and do commentary on the shows. But for years, it didn't really cross my mind. It was something I was interested in, but I was focused on being a wrestler. And around 2011 or so, I just started dabbling in it when we moved to a newer building, and just tried it and really enjoyed it. And a lot of people liked my work back then. So I always looked at it as a good kind of fallback plan.
When you first started commentary, was it one of those things where, hey, the color commentator that we didn't really, that we needed to have didn't show up, so you're going to do it, or was it planned out in advance? And what was it like for you that first time you sat down and put those headphones on?
Well, at the time, I remember, being honest, commentary was really an afterthought at the time. It was just like, okay, let's get two guys in the booth and call the match.
Right.
And it took a long time for us to really take it seriously because we didn't think we were distributing anything. And for a long time, it was me and Amber Gertner calling the shows. And we just kind of had a really good rapport, and we just kind of grew it from there. And, after that, pretty soon after we started taking it a bit more seriously, we were getting some more attention from the outside world and things like that. So we kind of tightened up on all of that stuff.
Eventually, you get paired up with Brad Stutz. And Brad is just a genius when it comes to commentary. He's a genius when it comes to booking. He's a genius just to me personally when it comes to the business in general. What did you describe some of the early shows? Was it a lot? Did it take a long time for you two to get used to each other? Because now you guys have such a good rhythm with each other. Even like tonight, I would never know that you couldn't hear him in the headsets. You two just click. So can you talk about those early days with Brad a little bit?
Well, in the early days, actually, I did a podcast with someone recently, and what I told them was that if you listen to those old kind of shows from around 2012, 2013, I was very much trying to do the kind of the traditional heel color commentary thing. And we had a pretty good chemistry back then, but we were both, I think, trying to do our own thing. And, I mean, the chemistry was there, but it wasn't, if that makes sense. And it's something that definitely grew as I kind of developed my style to kind of be more, in tune with my own personality. And just kind of developed the banter and stuff like that. And we became closer friends and all of that. And it just kind of over time, just with anything else, time and practice made it better.
You say time and practice made it better. Who did you, as far as announcing wise, obviously, you got the greats like Jim Ross, Gordon Soley, who do you always look up to as an announcer, and who's your go-to announcer to listen to possibly get better at your craft?
Well, people are always kind of surprised that I've named very few wrestling announcers as my influences. I mean, really, the only people I look at wrestling-wise are Jesse Ventura and, somewhat surprisingly, a little bit of Tony Schiavone. I really like both of their styles and delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Ventura, just because he made everything feel like it was a shoot.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that I really always wanted to take from Ventura. So that's kind of my style. I want to make everything feel like a shoot. But otherwise, my big influences, Jim Lampley, the boxing announcer, is a great basketball announcer, Mark Followell, that I pattern myself after. So I try to take a little bit from everybody. But those two are probably my big influences. A little bit of Mauro Ranallo, dropping puns and things like that. Just try not to be annoying about it.
You're never annoying about it. You definitely know how to sprinkle it in and do it when it means something. Like tonight, you don't hear you guys curse very often, but when it does, it means something and it's damn funny. It's either damn funny or it's like, oh God, they're taking this really effing seriously, I want to talk a little bit about your wrestling career here. Why have you kind of faded? Go ahead.
I mean, we want people to keep listening to the show, so we don't have to talk about my wrestling career.
Nah, man, no.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
Why is it that you've taken a back seat to it? Because I haven't gone back and watched much of the old stuff. I've only been following the product for about 2.5 years now, and you were wrestling very, very sparingly when I started off. Why have you cut back over the years? Is it due to an injury? Is it just because you're, better getting, you want to be a better commentator, so your time's more, best spent there?
It was a combination of a few things. I mean, my body was starting to kind of fail me. I'd gotten a couple of pretty bad injuries, and my back and left side of my hip are more or less, immobile. So it made it very, very difficult. I took a really bad bump wrestling Jason Miller one time, and ever since then, I've just had a hard time with my back.
Mm-hmm.
And it contributed a lot to it, and it was just becoming apparent that, and I'm not saying this to knock Brad Stutz or anybody, but there was less interest in using me as a wrestler at the time.
Right.
And I just kind of saw the writing on the wall and figured it was time to go ahead and find a way to make myself valuable in a different way. And it's something that, actually, I don't say I preach it, but it's something I always try to tell people getting into the business, that always try to figure out where you can add value, even if it's not what you originally intended.
Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of worked for you here, because I think it was either last year's Rumble or maybe even been this year's Rumble, last year's or the year before's Rumble, where you were like, if I don't win, that's it. This is my last Rumble. And it kind of added a little bit of a storyline to it, and it was very, very well done. And then you turn around and this year you had a match and had a little bit of a feud with Kane Justice. Talk to us a little bit about that, the arm injury. Obviously, you wore that cast constantly, so I think it's fair to state that injury was a shoot. But talk a little bit about this feud that you had at the start of the summer, or with Kane, and what went into that feud. How much of it was influenced by you? Just kind of give us a little bit of memories, if you will, about that feud here from earlier this year.
Oh yeah, the injury definitely was legit. I had an in-home accident and broke my elbow. So the whole time I was in that cast, it was legitimate. I had to be in that cast. But it's kind of I guess once you're a wrestler, you always try to apply things to wrestling.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm like, okay, we've got this kid coming up. His deal is that he breaks people's arms. He's got this arm submission. I've got a legit injury here. How can I use this? And can I use it to help him kind of elevate himself? And, a little bit of it was a little selfish for me just because I wanted to see if I had another match in me. But the main idea was to kind of give him a storyline to kind of sink into, because he had never really had like a real storyline with promos and things like that. And he's just a kid that I've always kind of had a soft spot for, even though a lot of people kind of he annoys people. He gets on people's nerves. He gets on mine sometimes, but I've always had a soft spot for him and wanted to help him out. And I don't know if he came out looking better after this or not, but that was definitely the goal, was to try to make him, to elevate him in a lot of ways.
I think this is just me personally talking, and I've said it before here on the after show. He came out from your match looking good, but the overall deal where he's going to have to face the legends of CWF, to me, was kind of, weak. Because I've always seen, I'm a huge Caniac, as they call him. I'm a huge Kane Justice fan. And I look at Kane Justice, and I look at him, and I go, that's Kurt Angle his first year in the business. Why are they not pushing this guy to the moon? But I definitely think the match that he did with you elevated him a lot, and it really did make him shine a lot here. So I want to ask a little bit about your love for Japanese wrestling. You're always Brad Stutz's go-to guy when it comes to anything, Japanese or even elsewhere. If it's outside the U.S., you're his go-to guy. When did your love for Japanese wrestling start, and how often, how much do you keep up with it? Are you there with every single New Japan show that they have up on New Japan World?
Well, the irony is that I watch very little New Japan. I'm actually not a huge fan of the New Japan product, which kind of surprises people.
Yeah.
Most of my knowledge is actually just gleaned from all the stuff I saw before. I started watching Puro around 99, 2000, maybe 2001, somewhere in that ballpark. A friend of mine had a All Japan tape. It was just a 1999 All Japan review tape. So it had just like these clipped matches from all the big stuff from All Japan. And I'd always been familiar with Japanese wrestling beforehand, from WCW. They bring in Liger and Kensuke Sasaki and all those guys. But this was my first time really getting kind of immersed in the style, and just from watching clips. And the first people I'm exposed to are, Misawa and Kawada and Kobashi and those people. Mm-hmm. So I just instantly fell in love with it. It's mostly because it came during a time I was really falling out of love with pro wrestling, at least on the American scene.
What are your thoughts on the actual Japanese wrestling scene today? I mean, you can't go to a WWE event. Yes, I know they're more associated with Ring of Honor, but you can't go to a WWE event without seeing Bullet Club T-shirts in the audience and no New Japan shirts in the audience. They did this recent show over here. And you said you don't follow them that much, but I'm curious to ask, what do you think about the way they're expanding, and is it going to be too much too soon for them?
No, I mean, I'm actually very glad they're expanding. Great for them, just because there needs to be an alternative out there. But kind of the irony of that is that 10 years ago, I was kind of the anomaly. I was the one talking up all these Japanese matches, and people looked at me like I had two heads. No one knew what I was talking about.
Right.
And now, that's what everybody's talking about. Most wrestling fans have heard of Okada and Tanahashi and all these guys. Whereas 10, 12 years ago, I mentioned, Marufuji or Kenta, and very few people know who I'm talking about. So it's kind of cool to see in a lot of ways, even if I'm not a fan of their current product and style. It's still really awesome to see another true alternative kind of popping up.
who's the one guy that's sitting over there right now that you think he has to come to America and at least work for one of the big companies, just one match?
I mean, unless you count ROH, one of the big companies, but, obvious, Okada, Tanahashi, those guys. But I think, honestly, Naito would probably have a really good run in the States. If WWE brought in Naito, I think he has the charisma and kind of like a weird physical charisma that I think would get over really well.
It's funny, I saw you on your Twitter today. The PWI released their top 10 of the 500, and you're just like, and Okada's sitting at number 1 on the list. But it's like you're having to tell people, guys, it's a fake list. It might as well be an after mag by now. I really do. I never will understand why people in WWE even take that list way too much to heart.
Well, I go both ways with that. I mean, taking it to heart's one thing, but also get mad when people trash other people for being happy for being on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm an upcoming indie wrestler and I get stuck, at 200 on the PWI 500, I'm going to be pretty happy about it because it's exposure and it's getting my name out there. So I've never been okay with people kind of making fun of people for being, kind of proud of it. But at the same time, it's a kayfabe list. It's based on, like, if you were watching it like a sport, who won the most, who had the most titles, and so on and so forth. So
Right.
You get upset over Okada being ahead of Roman or vice versa or whatever, you're looking at it wrong.
The biggest thing that caught me was the fact, and I had a moment like that myself where I had to go back and look at it and remind myself that, hey, this is a worked list, because Omega's sitting at number 5 above or below Roman Reigns, and I'm sitting there going, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? And then I have to calm myself down, just like you said in your tweet. I have to calm myself down and realize it's kayfabe. It's an aftermag. It really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. You're also, I want to talk a little bit here about, go a little bit away from wrestling. You started posting something on your Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I started commenting back on you. You're a video game fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was more of a gamer right now. Just, money and things like that kind of dictate how much of a gamer I can be. But, yeah, I've played games since I was a little kid and try to stay with it as much as I can as an adult now.
All right, I have to ask, PlayStation or Xbox?
I'm a PlayStation guy. I've gone PlayStation, forever. Since PS1, I've gotten every system.
That's awesome. Me too. I'm sitting here looking at a PS4 sitting right on my desk. I love it. What's your favorite? You were posting stuff about Mega Man and everything, like really old school stuff. What's your favorite video game of all time?
If you really twisted my arm and said, pick your favorite game ever, I would probably say Kingdom Hearts.
Really? I just started playing that a couple weeks ago I went to, there's a video game store in Greensboro called Lost Ark. And
absolutely. I love that place.
I love that. It's Candyland, man. I love it. And I bought an old school PS2 with Kingdom Hearts because I'm like, everybody's marking out over Kingdom Hearts. I got to try this. And it's pretty addictive right from the first moments. I could see where Kingdom Hearts would be one of your top games here. Gonna get back to wrestling here. The commentary deal. There's nobody in your ear really talking like there is. You hear people up and I know it's not really, it's apples and oranges, but you hear people saying WWE, Vince is always in your ear. Vince is always in your ear. When you're out there with Stutzy's the booker. Stutzy's one of the people that helps put this whole thing in motion. He helps put it all together. He knows what's supposed to go where, who's supposed to do what time they're supposed to do it, etc. What kind of preparation goes into that commentary for you? Do you like to know what the card is ahead of time? Do you like to know what the finishes are? Give us a little bit about the prep work here.
I actually kind of don't like knowing who's going to win and what the finishes are, and I think Brad knows that because a lot of times he'll kind of swerve me on things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he likes the reaction that I have if I don't know. But prep-wise, I mean, he and I both kind of have our own notes. I mean, mine are usually more mental, but obviously he's going to have more detailed notes because he's booking the thing. But he's never, like, in my ear, like, we'll have bullet points and things like that. He'll say, we want to cover this, or this is the beat we want to hit on that. But I'll usually know the show and the match order and things like that, because we're running the TV taping. I don't want to reference something that hasn't, quote unquote, happened yet. So Grant will usually send me the format, things like that, the day of the show. I usually, get annoyed at him because everything's taped out of order. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, there's a shocking lack of prep work as far as he and I together in the booth goes.
I was going to ask, everything being taped out of order, and even if it is taped in order on YouTube, the editing always has the last stand and everything. Can you show us a time? Can you tell us about a time where the announcing was good, where you looked at him and said, "Don't change a thing"? That leave it like that. And on the flip side, can you give us a situation where something was bad and you were like, "Hey, we got to go back and do this," because I read online the other day how JR and Lita got back in the booth and redid almost all the commentary for the first episode of that, or first few episodes of that Mae Young Classic. So can you give us an episode or a time when it was really good and you were saying, "Hey, don't change a thing," and give us a time when something went bad and you were like, "Hey, we got to redo this"?
Well, when it's good, we usually don't have to say anything. So to be honest, there's not really an example of it being so good where it's like, "Oh man, we just got to leave it," just because, Grant already knows it's good. He's going to leave it anyway.
Right.
And actually, Grant's not going to change anything unless we tell him it needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Because he'll admit to he doesn't listen to the show when he edits, unless we bring something to his attention. But there have been times where, we've had production snafus and things like that where we've had to go back and re-record things, or, I can't think of a specific example, but I do know there are times where I was just really unhappy with a line I used or something I said, and I'll beg Grant to take it out just because I don't want to embarrass myself. Things like that. But we've had 2 shows that I can recall where the audio equipment went out, and me and Brad are just talking away, and it turns out none of it recorded.
Oh, wow.
So we would basically have to set up a time where we can both get together and basically recall this match and hope that it fits in and blends in with the original commentary.
Yeah, you're kind of sitting around going, "What did I say before? Do I want to repeat that, or can I come up with something better for it?" I imagine.
Well, Brad actually made a remark one time when we were doing this. He's like, "How do you remember everything you said in that match?" It's like, I don't know. I guess it's because I felt strongly about the points I was making. I'm able to remember it. But I'll usually hit the same beats and say the same things on post-productions. I don't know how I remember it, just because I can't remember what I had for lunch today. But I just somehow managed to do it.
I want to talk about your and Stutzy's commentary style a little bit, because one of the things that I know my stupid Mark self has been critical of is the screaming, the "oh God," which I've noticed that's actually been dialed down ever since I don't know whether it was me or other people were saying something. It kind of is dialed down. Have you ever been in a match where you're in the middle of commentating and you just shoot Stutzy a look like, "Did you really just say that?" And has he ever done that to you?
Believe it or not, he's more likely to do that to me. Obviously he's the more loud and bombastic of the two of us, but I think there have been more times where he's given me that look than the other way around. It's because he always tries to play it straight out there more often than not. And I have like this really dumb, dry sense of humor where if you don't know me, you don't know I'm telling a joke sometimes.
Right. And
there have been times like that where he'll give me either the pissed off booker look or the disappointed dad look. So it's always kind of funny to see.
People here in our chat room love seeing this live. Good work. Thank you very much. Wrestling God goes, "Thanks, Cecil, for your informative insight and intelligent commentary. You are why I like listening to CWF on Wednesdays. You help tell the stories for every level of fan," and that comes from Wrestling God. And I'll agree with that. Can you talk a little bit about that when you're going back to your style? You can go into, you call the STO by its real name, what the STO actually stands for. And then there's other times where you'll say, "Oh, STO." And then you'll call, things by their Japanese name. Like, I love how you guys both call Chet Sterling's move, the Frog Splash, the High Fly Flow. when 90% of the people who may be watching probably have no idea what that is. So can you talk a little bit about having to not get too carried away with insider terms, because you want to keep it as a shoot, you said, but you can't really go to shoot with it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, my thing is, like, obviously I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about and, be the quote unquote informed color commentator. I think part of that's knowing all the names of the moves and being able to describe them. But I always felt like it's really pandering and patronizing when you go overboard with it. And that's, not to beat the guy up, but that's kind of an issue I have with Mauro Ranallo right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that everything's going to be, oh, shades of so-and-so, or calling it by its Japanese name just to kind of get cred.
Right.
And it's kind of a fine line to walk, and it's really hard to explain at times, but it adds a little bit, but it can also detract if you go too far with it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this with this final question here. What's your favorite match you ever called down there in CWF?
Favorite match I ever called is honestly going to be the 105-minute match, Roy and Trevor.
Yeah, that was...
just from an emotion standpoint, I mean, if you want to get down to brass tacks, I've maybe called better matches, but I think it's the one that in my heart and in my soul, like, I just really felt it as we were calling it.
One more question here, because just to follow up on that. Besides that match, can you give us some more examples of where you just feel it and whatever you had in your head now has gone out the window and you're calling this from a fan, kind of like a fan's point of view? Obviously I think Chip and Trevor may have been like that for you. I'm not too sure. I'm not going to speak for you. At least it was for me. It's like I took everything that I was expecting to see and threw it out the window about 10 minutes into the match, 5 minutes into the match. So have you ever done that as far as a commentary goes? Have something in your head that you have to hit, that you have to say, but then the bell rings and it's like, this is too good to even try to go that route with it?
Almost every Trevor match at this point kind of gets to that point. It's like kind of an easy route to take here, but I go in and I'll say, man, I want to hit this point, or make this comparison. And sometimes I get there, but once you get to the thick of these matches, especially a good recent example is the Trevor and Nick match, where I wanted to make all these points and comparisons, but you're just thrust violently into the match, from the word go. So it's just like everybody's shooting their wide, from the wrestlers to the commentators. And, it's easy to pick on Trevor on this just because what we're calling is so special with his title reign. But it's just so easy to get caught up in what he's doing.
It's kind of like interviewing you, my friend, because I have a lot more things written down, and we went off and veered other places, and that's always a good thing when the flow of the interview goes that way. Just like I'm sure it's always good when the flow of the match goes that way, where you can take your notes, throw them out the window, and still have a good call. I want to thank you so much for doing the interview. I have to ask you, are you coming to FanCon at all? Because that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I've actually went ahead and cleared my schedule out for it at the behest of Johnny P, since he put up my my interview just now. So I'm actually going to do it for him.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'd planned on at least making day 2, but I'm going to try to make both days. If Papa Hills can make it, I can make it.
That's right. I look at it this way: at least do Radio Row with me. At least do Radio Row with me. I don't know. I can't speak for the other podcasts that are going to be on there, but I want to get everybody on the show some way or another. But Cecil, I want to thank you very much staying up late with us. Thank you every time. Every time I see you pop in the chat room here, I smile. Every time I see you, Grant, or at least somebody from that promotion, I smile. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for coming on, sir.
Oh, my pleasure. I can't wait to do it again.
Not a problem. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. And that was Cecil Scott, ladies and gentlemen, color commentator for CWF Mid-Atlantic. Very good interview there, a lot of insight. I really enjoyed it. But let's get in to episode 120 here for CWF Worldwide. It's the finals of the Johnny Weaver Memorial Cup Tournament. And it starts off with Smith Garrett versus Logan Easton LaRoe. We got CL Party, of course, on our screen. It's always a party when CL's on your screen. And she's introducing the match, and Logan grabs the mic, says, I got a note here from Dr. Delp, Mr. Eric Thomas, and we're using shoot names, apparently, here. He says, Eric Thomas, you have something, you have, well, you know what? Let's just show the picture. And they show the picture up on the Sawyertron 5001, I guess you could call it. Says, you have a bulging disc. He goes, oh, well, wait, show the other picture. You got a broken neck. You can't perform here tonight. That's the reason why your matches have been ending in 10 seconds or less, because if you take one bump, if you take one move wrong, if you go in here and hurt, you're going to hurt yourself. And basically it says, like, you got a bulging disc in the C1 cell 6 area. I like this. I liked it a lot. It got serious heel heat here for Logan Easton LaRoe, and it was phenomenal. I mean, this is old school. This is a very old school angle that you'd expect to see during the old Jim Crockett days. To me, that's what this reminded me of. And it was, yes, WWE could try something like this now and probably do it a little bit better because their, technology is better, but I don't think it would come off near as good as it did here for this crowd. And Smith Garrett here. I know I've been kind of critical about Smith Garrett here in the last month or two. But this right here showed me. Oh, man. I'll admit, I got started getting emotional over this. And this guy's working the fuck out of everybody, kind of. Who knows? We don't know. But I mean, he starts crying, please let me wrestle. Please let me wrestle. Don't take this away from me. Do not take this away. He's crying his eyes out, doing a very good job, playing that sympathetic babyface role. And he finally cracked the egg for me tonight, guys. He finally showed me something that says this guy knows what he's doing. He knows how to cut a damn good promo. The sucker can cry on command, pretty much. It was beautiful. Very, very beautiful, man. So, basically what happens is William Cross comes in the ring and Brad Stutz comes in the ring, and Brad has enough, Brad looks at Cross and goes, dude, look, I'm just the booker here. Your name's on the insurance policy in the building. Your name's on the building itself. Your name is everything that has a name on this building is yours, pretty much. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to wipe my hands clean. And Cross goes off and pretty much says, okay, well, we're not going to let you wrestle tonight. We know you want to. We're not going to let you wrestle here tonight. And he basically strips Smith Garrett of his spot in the tournament. Oh, Logan Easton LaRoe will get a bye in that place, and we go off to the very next thing here, which is probably... let me talk a little bit about this segment here. It's one of those old segments of where if it was, this is no, why would you say, this is nothing bad on Straight No Chaser or that violin group, but I say, if you're, I say that they need this kind of emotion more often. It got people really involved. It really did. It was one of those things where if this was way back in the day, if this was the Rock and Roll Express, you'd have the fans crying in the ring and wanting to hug them and please no, don't go, please let them fight. It was crazy, man. So I like how Cross has McAllister with him here. Basically, I wrote down that the entire segment was just awesome from beginning to end. Tells him that he's going to, he tells Logan that he's going to take everything away that he has. And then we got Ethan Alexander Sharp versus Chet Sterling. This was damn good. This right here was Ethan Alexander Sharp's, coming out party, as it were. This match was so awesome. He got in as much offense as I've ever seen. Chet made him look like $1 million. You get the bus driver elbow. Sharpie did not look tired one bit in this match toward the end. And Chet wins with a cradle. After getting dominated for most of the match, Chet comes in and wins with a cradle. I liked it. It's one of those situations where I liked it here. And after the match, Sharpie has kind of snapped. He's doing that whole twitching thing. He's doing the whole laughing thing. And the maniacal laugh. And one has to wonder, are we going to get broken Sharpie out of all this? Who knows? Eric Andrews and Lee Valiant, apparently those two are still together. They come out for their World Television title debut, defense. CL Party, of course, is awesome as always, having to redo the ring entrance and shows really good emotion doing it. Bruce Mitchell gets to pick the Bruce Mitchell gets to pick the opponent, and he picks he picks Innocent Isaiah. I love how Bruce Mitchell did the Karnak thing with the envelope, putting it up to his head, like, you know, sis boom ba, you know. And he opened it up, and it's the thing is, what's the sound a sheep makes before it explodes? Sis boom ba. It was very good to see the Karnak thing. Somebody called it out, hey, Karnak, and they were right. And you even had a lot of people chanting, and this was really weird here. This may have been our beach ball moment of this show, which is iffy, but people were actually wanting it to be Chappie in this match. It's kind of crazy. People were actually wanting and cheering for Chappie. We get this match here with Eric Andrews and Isaiah. Isaiah's grabbing nipples. He's being a really, you know, flamboyant character. The only thing I could say for this is, well, at least he didn't do a dick flip. If that ever happens, I said this on one of my shows earlier this week here on the channel, and that I refuse to even watch anything that Joey Ryan's a part of. It very first started for me when I was on an indie show, or not on an indie show, at an indie show. And, you know, people were talking about Joey Ryan, and what kills me about Joey Ryan is that I just can't stand that spot. And I told a guy that I was with that, you know, if he ever comes on down to CWF, I'm getting up and walking out. And that's one thing, you know, that kind of, you know, is true for me. I love CWF, but if they ever book Joey Ryan in anything, I'm not coming. Or if they do, and they do it as a surprise, I'm getting up and walking out. But this wasn't as bad here with Isaiah and Eric. You had nipples and being grabbed, and he even got an oh God out of Cecil. The rule book says nothing about nipples. They say Bruce Mitchell would know. Lee Valiant is so, you know, torn apart by this that he leaves he almost leaves the ringside area, and he's pretty much telling Andrews, look, enough of this, wrap it up, get it done. Red Jones has just had surgery, so we want to say get well to Red. This ref, oh my God, and he comes into play later on in the show. Where did they get this referee from? This guy literally looks like... You remember that horrible movie from that Joey Knoxville did called The Ringer? About sums up this kid. Anyway, I thought he did a damn good job refereeing, though. That's what killed me. He did a damn good job refereeing, especially in this match. And they even foreshadow this by saying, man, the referee really isn't taking any crap from these two guys here. It was really good. Really well done. So basically you get the big side slam from Andrews there. And then Isaiah kind of hits what I dubbed a reverse Bronco Buster. Cecil points out that it's shades of Amber O'Neal. And basically, you know, it ends the asphalt spike by Andrews. It's a lot of ha-ha during the match. If you like a lot of ha-ha during the match and a lot of, you know, humor, quote-unquote humor in the match, you'll like this. So, it was not bad. It was not bad at all. Then after the match, they start putting the boots to Isaiah, but Rob McBride, the Boogie Woogie Man, Rob McBride returns to CWF and sticks his nose where it doesn't belong, cleans house. So then we get Valiant versus Rob McBride. I like it. It's a little bit of ECW-ish there with the matches flowing one right into another. I like when they do that. Hell, the episode was an hour long, almost exactly. So you don't get much timing better. You don't get timing better than that, folks. I'm afraid. Valiant goes for a spear through the ropes. Rob McBride catches him and just belts him with a chop to the back. Before this, they're sitting in the corner, and it reminded me, reminded me of the old school days where you'd see the indie guy do this to the Japanese guy and vice versa with the constant chops here. Boogie ends up winning with a second row elbow drop, which was very awesome. I like the finish of this match here. After the match, Rob kisses Isaiah. Isaiah likes it. And then kisses the grizzled veteran and Boogie Woogie Man Rob McBride. And you could so tell with the camera angle that this was I'm going to put my mouth in front of your mouth, or I'm going to kiss my finger type thing so I don't kiss you. And that's where that segment ended there. But then we got a Kane Justice promo. I put here revolving the Isaiah thing where he kissed Rob McBride. I put here, it's the first time I've ever seen somebody give themselves the quote-unquote rude awakening. So basically, then we get our main event. Logan Easton LaRoe versus Chet Sterling for the Weaver Cup Finals. Huge top rope one-legged drop kick there. Kind of like what Brad Attitude's quote-unquote finish is, only from the top rope. It was very well done. Very good way to start the match over. Hits him with a or start the match, I should say. Hits a brains buster, goes for the pin, and Valiant kicks out. There's a big German suplex in the match by Logan, still for a 2 count. Sterling's fired up here, and he's looking good. I put the ref even look good in this match. Big kicks by Chet. Or big kicks. Chet kind of no-sells it here for some of this. And then there's a big throw off the top rope by Chet. Golly, guys, I'm tired tonight. By Chet. And then the referee... The ending call came where the referee, golly, I'm tired. The ending came when the referee signaled for a DQ because the customer's hand was on the ropes. Or no, excuse me. Sorry, I have that written down here. Closed fist. Oh, it's not my night. He basically gives Logan the match, DQs Chet because of a closed fist. Sorry, I'm out of it tonight, guys, for some reason here. That and my handwriting is terrible. So the ref, when's the last time he saw a ref DQ for a closed fist? And everybody's up in arms over this. And basically the quote-unquote decision here is to restart the match because they find out that that Logan Easton LaRoe has paid this referee off. Because they have a Cross get in the ring, they have Stutzy get in the ring, and they go, I didn't hire the ref. Well, I didn't hire the ref. Who hired the ref? And then it's like, hey, we smell a rat here. We smell, cheese. So basically they restart the match. They get a new ref out there. They're brawling all over the front part of the building because of LaRoe making off with the trophy. Catches him before he enters the locker room, hits him. Basically, gets a cutter by, Logan gets a cutter for a 1 count after it's restarted here. Get a STO by Chet. Huge kick out here. Huge kick to the face by Logan. I put here Chet selling is good. Gets better week in, week out. Get a sunset flip by Logan, and Chet ends up winning with the high five flow. And then we get the the big angle. I don't want to say it's an angle after this because Chet's already, there's no real big celebration because he's already got the trophy, so it's not like he got to hand it to him. And we all kind of knew that he was winning the tournament anyway, so it really wasn't a big pop for the crowd when Chet won. At least not what I could tell for camera. But Afterwards, Trevor Lee comes out. And he's the only one out of the entire locker room. Normally, when they do this kind of situation, they have every babyface in the world or every heel in the world come out and congratulate him. Well, they didn't do that here. There was one guy that came out and gave Chet Sterling the endorsement. And that was Trevor Lee. So one has to wonder, is this feud it's going to be a slow burn probably from now until maybe Battlecade? I'm looking forward to seeing it. If they do it, I want to see Trevor Lee as kind of an arrogant prick heel character. And that's all I got here. It was a very good show tonight. I'm sorry if it seems like I'm rambling here in some spots, folks. That's because I'm tired. I am dead dog tired. Started a new job this week, and it's just taking its toll on me. So I do apologize if that review wasn't up to snuff as usual. But I like the finish here. I liked every match. The Chet Sterling Ethan Alexander Sharp match was probably my favorite match on the show just because Sharpie looks so good. It's probably the most aggressive, and it's probably my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite Ethan Alexander Sharp match, that's going to be at the top. I smell Trev versus Chet at Battlecade. Yep, I said it since the tournament started, and once they eliminated Kane and told you the direction that they're going with Kane, I was like, Kane's not getting that title before the main event. If anything, he's going to lose it before Battlecade. So I do smell Trev versus Chet at Battlecade. I don't know, and they're probably going to do this. They're probably going to go face versus face with it, which is, I wish they go heel versus face with it, but I don't know if they can. So yeah, that is a legit move. That is a legit prediction, I guess, is that they, Trevor and Chet may hook it up at Battlecade. I hope they do. I really do. It's going to be a good match. I'm curious to see which one's the babyface and which one's the heel, or they're going to book it two babyfaces going at it. I think that we've seen that enough from Trevor Lee of two babyfaces going at it. We really have. I think so anyway. We need a strong heel going up against. I mean, you got Eric Royal going up against him at the Chapel Hill show, I believe. But to me, that's still, you need somebody in that sportatorium who's a really strong heel to interrupt that match and do something, maybe, if it does happen. Anyway, I'm going to get off here for tonight. I thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me as I'm rambling on here, as I'm tired. I do apologize, folks. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep last night, so if it seems like I'm going off and rambling and making no sense, that's probably why. But, yeah, Trevor versus Chet at Battlecade. Totally could see it. I totally predicted it once they started leaning in the direction of Chet winning the tournament. I was like, yeah, they're going to those two at Battlecade. One of them's got to be a heel, though. One of them's got to be a babyface. I don't think it'll work with two babyfaces. Maybe it will, though. But Eric versus Trevor is September 9th. Yeah, there you go. And that's for the longest reigning title reign in CWF history. So whoever, if Trevor gets past Eric Royal, he will be the longest reigning champion ever, I think. So I'm going to get off here for the night, folks, because there have been a couple times in the show where I've just drifted off, so to speak. So I do apologize. It's late. I'm not used to this. I'll be honest with you, if I didn't have to work tomorrow, I'd stay up with you guys all night. But anyway, we're going to get out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Thank you so much, Cecil Scott, for coming on and being such a good interview. But yeah, go check out episode 120. It was awesome. It was so good. I don't think I put it over enough here tonight. But, so yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you down the road.